Good morning. We'll bring the conference committee on the Education Finance Omnibus bill to order. And it's very good to see everyone. I hope everyone had an enjoyable and restful break, and we're ready to get back to work and get a final bill produced. And so I thought maybe we should begin by each Senator Nelson and I saying a little something, and then allow everyone to introduce themselves, and we'll include the staff in that. You're all an integral part of what we do here. So with that, I am Representative Jennifer Loon, Chair of the House Education Finance Committee, representing Eden Prairie. And this is my 5th term in the legislature, and I'm very honored to be here and starting us off here today on our conference committee process. I'll make just a couple of comments about the House bill, and then I'll turn it over to Senator Nelson for any comments she wishes to make about the Senate bill. And then again, we'll commence with introductions. So the House bill, and it's House File H890, provides overall a $1.1 billion increase in education spending over the previous biennium, and that's about 6.5%. And this is our bill, the House bill, is a $273 million increase above the projected base, and most of that increase is applied to the basic formula. And actually, that's a priority that both the House and the Senate bill embody. The House version dedicates more than 80% of our base revenue increase to the per pupil basic formula and to compensatory revenue. And I think if there's one message we have all heard, legislators loud and clear from our school districts, it's to prioritize money on the formula. And that is the money that they use to fund their priorities and to do with as they see to best fit the needs of their school, their students, and their communities. The House bill also continues our commitment to proven early learning strategies with increased funding for scholarships, and is really what has become called the Minnesota model by other states around the nation, looking at what we're doing, which is providing targeted support to those young learners most in need while preserving parent engagement and choice. We've also got some great provisions in this bill to address the need for more and more diverse teachers in our classrooms. And we do that through some key programs and policy reforms. And to attract new teachers into the teaching profession, to try to diversify our teaching ranks. And we also address the seniority-based teacher retention policy that does make it more difficult to attract and retain new teachers. There are also some key provisions in here that are more policy-oriented, but I think they're important. One would be Representative Bennett's provision to try to protect our children from child sexual abuse, which is certainly an epidemic we've been hearing a lot about, and also a provision that was authored by Representative Fenton that would assure that drinking water in our schools is safe. And there's been a lot of attention to that issue as well. So through the priorities embodied in the House bill, we are hoping to empower our schools with more discretionary funding and autonomy over how to utilize those funds, again, to the best needs of those local school districts and the students that they serve. We want to continue to empower parents with early learning scholarships so that they can choose programs best suited to the needs of their children, and to empower our communities to be strong education partners in making sure that we are educating our children to the best of their ability and to the strength of our state as a whole. And so with that, I would be pleased to recognize Senator Nelson.
Well, thank you, Chair Loon. It's great to be here with you today and get started on certainly what many of us think is our future, and that is the E12 Finance and Policy Conference Committee. We know how important our work here is to the future that our students will have and the strength that they will bring to our state. It's nice to be back here in room 200 in the state office building. I started here in this conference room when I was on education policy as a House member many years ago with some who are here at the table today. And it's wonderful to be serving in the Senate now in this role as well. I'm a daughter of two public educators. My dad was my high school principal. That was a story that we can talk about at some point. It was interesting when guys were dating the principal's daughter, I will say. And then my mother was a special education teacher, and I'm a former teacher as well. Have taught special education, 8th grade reading, and Title I in elementary and secondary schools. So we know how important our work is here today. Many of the things that Rep. Loon mentioned are also in the Senate bill. I'll just give you a little flavor of the Senate bill that we'll be conferencing and start conferencing today. The Senate education E12 target was $300 million over the projected budget forecast. The Senate focused 95% or 90% of that increased funding on the formula allowance. We increased the formula allowance to 1.5% in each year of the biennium as a carryover. And of course, this did not impact any of the linked-in or the linked formulas that are tied to the per pupil formula. It was a straight up 1.5% formula increase. The Senate bill also fully funded the following forecasted items and their growth. We know that enrollment will grow at about 35,000 additional students. Obviously, those funds are in the Senate bill as well as the House bill too, I'm sure. Special education growth in numbers and services. There's an additional $330 million over current special education funding. The debt service aid, which helps districts pay off construction bonds, is estimated to increase by $4 million. And projected increase in contact hours for adult basic education will also be covered at a cost of $4.6 million additional, as are the projected increases in the demand for our school food programs. That's an additional $5.4 million. One of the things that we must make sure we do is make good on our promises that we've started in the past. And that would involve the complete phase-in of the long-term facilities maintenance program, which was initially started, and now the bulk of the funding needs to come in starting in this biennium. $131 million of additional funding to complete that promise on an ongoing basis. The E12 Senate budget forecast alone would add $840 million for the upcoming biennium, taking our cost from $17.43 billion to $18.27 billion for the upcoming biennium. That is a 4.8% increase in funding over the current biennium. Then the Senate bill adds the additional budget target on top of that of $300 million for the upcoming biennium. So that would be a total of $18.57 billion, which is a 6.5% increase. And I should say that spending in the tails at the Senate target is $435 million. Just as an aside, with the exception of one small local adjustment in school property taxes, levy adjustments, the forecast for what schools are expected to receive under current law remains the same, which is $2.69 billion in 18 and $2.87 billion in 19. In addition, we'll spend the rest of the day going through both of these bills, but let me just say that if you look at the Senate bill in total, you will find that it is focused on per student funding and local control. We look at results-driven solutions, things such as the Reading Corps and doing some special targeting and focusing on dyslexia, educational tactics. And then we have some great rural and urban grant initiatives. And again, it's a historic level of investment. So even with that, I know that we will have challenges because we cannot fund every good thing that needs to be funded. And so that's our work in front of us. And I look forward to getting started. And I would like, we'll have our members introduce themselves.
Thank you very much, Senator Nelson. And I appreciate you highlighting a few more of some of the specifics, because I know we do have a lot of common goals shared between the House and the Senate bill, and I think that bodes well for a good start to our conference process. So thank you and your committee for all your good work. We appreciate it.